Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a Lioness special Vic Akers Wonderland Road to Stage in Australia podcast episode number 3. Is that right? Yes, I think it is. And for such an occasion, we have a star-studded lineup. So I'll introduce our fellow guests. We have the amazing Matt. Good evening, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. For all the regulars, you might have noticed something different. I think the amount of goals just blew everything away.
Yeah, I can see all the colour just appear from your calendar. It's black and white now. So I'm guessing that's what the change is. And maybe the fact that there's a few less strands of hair on top of your head. Alongside Matt is the lovely Lottie. Good evening, Lottie. How are you?
I'm good. Rachel Daly has turned up to the tournament. Get in. I am.
Can we just have a quick look? Give a quick look at the print, because I think you've got your English
yes,
printing
I got
now.
my printing. No, I don't really want to turn around, I'm afraid. The audio listeners, I do.
No, because you've got the number 9. Yes, well, yes, the England. Yeah, exactly. Yes, number 9, and so working as a wing back, as we'll get to in a bit. But along with the regulars, we have a few guests. And first, I'm going to turn to the gorgeous G. How are you, G?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Luckily managed to catch the beginning of the game by like the seconds this morning. So yeah, all really good, and looking forward to going through it with you guys.
Yeah, you're lucky than me. I was not so lucky. I had to listen to most of the game. I only saw one goal, but it was a pretty good goal.
Watch that back. You're going to have to watch them all back, the full game.
I've watched the highlights, don't worry.
No highlights, you've got to watch the full game, honestly.
I know. Well, luckily, I've Sky Plussed it, so I'll watch it when I get back.
Good.
But not just with G, we have a first-timer amongst us. Good evening, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. 3 games in, and next round, knockout rounds now.
Absolutely. Yes, it is on to the knockout round, because England are through. It's 3 out of 3. I think it's the second time we've managed that at the World Cup, and a pretty impressive feat considering how certain other nations have fared so far in the World Cup, mentioning no names, Germany. But England is, of course, the topic of this particular pod, and we'll start right off the bat with the result. It was England 6, China 1. Quick run through the starting lineup. In goal, we had Marriott, as expected. And then a slight change with the back 3 of Jess Carter, Millie Bright, and Alex Greenwood. With I was going to say Elliot Daly, that's a rugby player. Rachel Daly and Lucy Bronze acting as fullbacks, with midfield 2 of Stanway and Zella in for the injured Kira Walsh. Breaking news: Kira Walsh it's not an ACL, the injury. We don't know what it is yet, but we wish her a full recovery. And then the front 3 of James operating the 10 this time around, and then a front 2 of Russo and Hemp. So I made a rather controversial prediction in the last pod, which drew the ire and horror of Lottie. I said that China would win 2-0 and we'd be knocked out. But that was under.
It was ire and horror. I'd say it was trauma. Every time your predictions, I just don't see them coming.
Well, I like to think
I'm sure you do it on purpose because you know what my reaction's going to be.
Oh, 100%. No, it's for 2 reasons. One, it is for time prediction. 2, because I know it will wind Lottie up. But the most important.
It's not more of a wind up. It's more like, what the hell are you thinking?
But
and the Lionesses did stick 2 up to you, to be fair.
Absolutely, and that was the idea, because it was under the precursor that we simply hadn't turned up yet. The previous 2 games have been 1-0, but we hadn't been great. We sort of scraped through. And my thought was, if we carry on playing this sort of tame, not intensive, not exciting, no movement, etc., the sort of the limp performances, we simply wouldn't get out of the group. So I thought we hadn't turned up, waiting for us to turn up. So, G, did we turn up today?
We did. And I think we all kind of said it in the last pod or over the last couple of pods. Lauren James has to be the number 10. And look what she basically scored 3. Obviously, 1 wasn't allowed, which is a shame. It was
but she did get a hat trick of assists.
Exactly. 2 goals and 3 assists in 1 game in the number 10. I mean, you just can't you can't take her out now. That's it. I didn't even think when obviously Toon came on late towards the end of the game, and I genuinely was just like, oh yeah, cool, there she is. It was just all on Lauren James, and the way she's handling like her first tournament is crazy. It just shows how incredible she actually is, and she's just going to get better as well. We've got a real diamond there, I think.
Absolutely. I'm going to get into a bit more to Lauren James a bit later in the pod. Ryan, I'm going to come to you. Serena is known for her staying with her normalities, her formations of players, but she's thrown up a few changes, and this was probably the most radical, a shift to the back three. Did that come as a bit of a surprise to you?
Yeah, it did basically, because as you say, based on last year especially, the Euros, she's literally stuck the same formation, same 11 no matter what. There was no injuries, thank God, back there. Obviously, we knew the situation with Kiev, so we knew someone was coming in anyway. But to completely change the formation and change things up, it's good to see, because it means that she ain't going to be what we've seen before with other managers in terms of years gone by, where they're one formation, one tactic, and they'll play through it no matter what.
One dimensional.
Yeah, basically. Phil Neville with a can't stand him.
I can't stand in my vote. The fun thing with Phil Neville is when he did try to mix things up, it got even worse. We'll always remember the high point of Lucy Bronze as an attacking midfielder is worth watching back at teams, and he's trying justification for it. We're in a better place now.
The fact that Serena took over that same squad and did what she did in 9 months said how serious about Phil Neville. But nevertheless, back to her. And I'll be honest, in the first 2 games, I was a big critic of Serena in terms of her subs. It's sort of like for like, it wasn't really switching up, and we needed her to switch it up in their moments. It was like striker for striker, winger for winger, and obviously with Kira went off. Midfielder for midfielder, we needed someone there, but it was tactically to never really change it. And I know China, again, Denmark was our only real competition in this group, with all due respect. But I was hoping that she would do it in them games, and at Haiti, when things weren't going our way against Haiti, for example, just to try something different there. Why not? It's got nothing to lose in that sense. We won the game eventually 1-0 and same with Denmark, but it's just like, it was frustrating to watch, and it's good to see that actually today.
I always think
I'm doing this. If you don't like it, tough.
Yeah, I always feel with those games when it's 1-0, think of like the Denmark game, Haiti game. It's 1-0 and it's in the balance. You don't want to disrupt too much, because you could then risk chucking it all together. And you think about how late on Denmark and Haiti, they almost got something. I do like the idea that she sort of responded to the last 2 games, and she changed formation. She made a slight change of personnel, which was needed. With obviously with Walsh's injury, but it's in back three is interesting, because I'm always a bit sort of I've my own feelings on the move to the back three. I think it has pros and cons. Matt, I'm going to come to you next. I want to talk about one of the players that did come in. I know you're a huge fan of her, and that's sorry for viewers, for those listening in, Lottie has just lost herself. Sorry.
You're mean. So mean.
So, as we all know, Matt is a huge fan of this particular defensive midfielder. So, Katie Zellem, I think, hilarity aside, okay, let's just put our cards on the table. We haven't been, shall we say, the greatest praise of Katie Zellem's podcast. In fact, we've probably been one of her loudest critics. However, looking across the England setup, if you're looking at who is the like-for-like swap, not in terms of like quality, but in terms of positionally, who is the defensive midfielder we've got in our team that we can choose, who is decently experienced and has got an element of talent. Not saying they're going to be as good as Kira Walsh, because who is, but who could play that role. For me, it was always Katie Zellem is the obvious choice to fill in that gap. Bearing in mind, obviously, we know what some of your biases are towards Katie Zellem. Can you put forward, how do you think she did in her first World Cup start?
How do you want me to respond to that? Because I'll just put this out there. I literally started a counter with how many times she lost the ball in our WhatsApp group, and I lost
how far
count
did you get?
after it was about 10, and it was just awful. It didn't feel like a proper game for her to be in. Yet, given the quality that we have in the midfield, we usually have someone like a Leah Williamson that goes in and drives through the midfield and then plays that long ball pass. None of that really happened. It was more of Lucy Bronze or Alex Greenwood doing it. There was none of that in the midfield trying to stretch the fullbacks for China, and it honestly felt like, I don't want to call China a bit amateurish, but it's kind of how they sort of came across it. I don't know what's really happened with China, but it just came across as like, if you're making this player look good at that she can string about barely 2 passes together and still make her look good. I don't know what's going on with China, but this is kind of like a wake-up call. We'll probably talk about this on another pod with a couple of the others that have been eliminated. These are supposed to be the superpowers, and because of and whether or not it's down to federation funding and things like that haven't gone their way, they're having their own issues, and this is a huge wake-up call for a lot of them. But just aside from the players' point of view, there were some good displays up there. Some of them I've been quite critical of. Jess Carter, again, she showed a bit more carelessness, but she was able to adapt a bit more quickly. If I had to pick one of the Chelsea players that should have probably started over her, was probably Niamh Charles, actually, because she actually does play as a centre back.
She came off the bench, didn't she, in the second half?
Yeah, she got her minutes. That now means that there is now 2 defenders that haven't made their appearances at a World Cup yet, in Lottie, Vivian Moy and Esme Morgan. But it also means that there are other players in the midfield that haven't had their chances yet, including one of our own in Jordan Nobbs. So it'll be intriguing come the game against Nigeria, which we now know what will happen. But I think this is going to end up being maybe a game by game look at, see what we can do. Because if I'm honest, if that's how she acts on games, she's giving the ball away to Nigeria, I'll be telling her to go sit on the plane.
So as you can see, a 10 out of 10 performance from Matt's review on Katie Zellum there.
Should be lucky if she got a 1.
In all seriousness,
Matt,
okay.
you're so mean.
And I think we all know that she's not your cup of tea, but I feel we have to put such agendas aside, because the fact is that these are the cards that we got dealt now. And we all love Kira Walsh. Kira Walsh is one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. She was the player of the final in the Euros. The fact is, we don't have her. We don't have Leah Williamson. We don't have Beth Mead. We don't have all these amazing players. This is what we've got. And so even though she's a Man U player, and obviously playing during the WSL, don't really like, she's playing for England now, as is the likes of Lauren James, and they will have my full support, and I wish her the best. And from listening on the radio, I was hearing nothing but praise for how she's playing in the heart of the midfield. I do think with the whole thing with Jess Carter is a bit interesting, because we played in the back 3, and I think that gives it helps players like Carter and Zen, because we played a double pivot. Walsh normally plays the sole pivot. We played with a double pivot with Stanway. Carter was playing in the back 3 of Bright, and I always feel with those decisions means it gives you greater numbers to counter maybe any deficiencies you have. And I think there was an element of maybe Serena going for a bit more security, thinking, I'll go with the back 3, Bright, Carter and Greenwood as my 3, rather than as a 2. I'll play Zellum with Stanway as a 2 to get for a bit more protection. That was the way I saw the team. And in fairness, the scorelines shows it did work. The other player that came in was, of course, Lauren James. Which is not coming in, starting a different position this time, as a number 10. It's been much talked about. It's been much discussed. It's finally happened. Lottie, what did you make of Lauren James in the number 10?
Oh, do you know what? I'm just so relieved that she does score like that for England, but can't score like that for Chelsea. It's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely bloody brilliant. I mean, it's a 1 or 2 in 10 chance that she gets it in domestically, and then she goes plays for England. It's banger after banger. I think one of them was outside the box today, and it was just like, oh my god, it was beautiful. I remember me and G were talking through the day, and it's just like, oh my god, this is amazing. So, and yeah, no, on one of our previous pods, I've been calling for her to be that number 10. Can she fill Fran Kirby's boots? The answer is yes, and it's so bloody exciting. I mean, I've got to be honest, this whole team is the best we've looked in a long time. We're dynamic, we're moving the ball faster. It's got that Euros excitement back. Yes. And there's that buzz again with England. I know I've said I'm unsure, there's no goals from open play, and now I've got 6. Do you know what I mean? I'm happy.
I'm happy as well.
I'm ready to take on Nigeria at this point. I'm not scared of Oshola, although she is one of the best on the planet. I'm not scared of her. It'll be good.
I mean, we should say with China, I mean, they are the Asian Cup champions. They are in inverted commas. This is the European champions against the Asian champions. You know, this is probably on paper. If you look at the standings, you say this is probably the hardest game of the group, and yet they've got the best possible result out of 3. There were many goals. There were plenty of goals. Sorry, Russo, Hemp, Kelly, Daly, and a brace from Lauren James. So we'll start and tuck right in. Russo, Arsenal striker, another Arsenal goal scorer, still behind Amanda Ilestead in top Arsenal goal scorer of the tournament, but she's working her way in. She's off the mark.
And Steph Catley.
And Steph Catley, yeah. But she's on 2 at the moment, isn't she? 2 penalties. Amanda's on 3.
It's still one more than Russo. Do you know what I think is really mad about this tournament? Our defenders are scoring more than our forwards.
I know. Amanda for the golden boot. We need Amanda Ilestead for the golden boot. So, Ryan, Alicia Russo, first our new signing off the mark in Australia. What do you think?
Not just today, but in all 3 games, I've been impressed with her massively. She's, again, from the Arsenal perspective, I'm liking what I'm seeing because this is what we're going to see week to week now for the near future of Touchwood, no sales and all that crap. I mean, Stina's got a sting now in terms of Arsenal side of it. He's got competition now to keep her on her toes and vice versa. And Russo's been given that starting role for the England team in this World Cup, and she's took it. And it's unlucky for her, she's only got 1 goal at the moment, but it was a typical Russo goal. Literally, ball coming into her and just hits the ball, finds a spot, instant bang goal. And that's what she was doing against Haiti. That's what I like to see. I liked seeing her do against Haiti and Portugal in the pre-World Cup game. That when she came on, or when she started, she was asking questions of the goalkeeper, stretching the defence, making the defence work. And as I say, I'm impressed with her. I can't wait until obviously we want to win this World Cup. But in terms of Arsenal, from a selfish point of view, I can't wait till October. The WSL gets underway. She's our striker, and we've got her and Stina to feed off basically, along with Viv and Beth. I'm genuinely happy for her, and I can't wait to see what else she's going to do against Nigeria on Monday.
I'm really excited. I'm really glad. I'm really excited for Ruth, and I'm really glad for her as well, because there's nothing worse than being a striker and it's you sort of going for a bit of a drought. We all saw what happened with Ellen White during the Euros and the sticks she was sort of getting for not getting the ball in net. But Ruth is up and running. Thank goodness. And it was a well taken goal. It was a well placed finish. I thought the keeper maybe could have done a bit better. It wasn't the most powerful of finishes, but it was a good way to. We got the early goal like we did in Denmark against Denmark, which is sort of the main thing. I was listening to it on the radio, and there was much cheer when the goal came in, and thankfully this time we actually kicked on. Obviously you were a big fan of Lauren Hemp during the Euros. Can I just get your thoughts, not just on the goal, but that first touch? Just talk us through it.
It's class. I'm so happy for her as well, because like we were saying the other day, and Lottie was saying, there was so much pressure on her to be the star in the Euros, and it just didn't quite work out as much as we were probably thinking, or as built up to be. So now she doesn't sort of have that, and there's other names that are taking those sort of roles with the media. She can just play freely, and obviously she was dropped to the bench the other day, protection of the yellow card, we think. But straight back in it today, getting involved, looking like her normal self. Her speed is back, because she has looked a little bit sluggish naturally at this time of the season. After you've played a full season and a Euros, some of them aren't going to be up to it, but they look like not just Lauren Hemp. All of them look like they've got that little bit of fitness building up again now. And yeah, the touch and the finish, it was just class.
I was listening to it again. I was when I was on the radio, and it was one of those moments when the touch happened, and you could hear the excitement as it happened. It almost felt like it had made the goal as such. It was too good, and then they were saying, "Thank God Hemp scored it," because it would have been. It is worth watching back the way that just one touch, just it's like things outside the boot, sort of flicks it at the perfect distance to get clear of the fence, draw the keeper out, and then just place in the bottom corner. Brilliant goal. And it was the first time in the World Cup we've actually scored more than once in a game, and then it just sort of got better and better. I mean, Matt, you obviously were a watcher of England in 2019. I've seen the first Lauren James goal back. Had an air of Lucy Bronze versus Norway, the sort of free kick roll back and well, in Lucy Bronze's case, she just smashed it into the roof of the net. Lauren James was would you call it a cultured finish, a sort of swept bottom corner? What did you make of the first Lauren James goal?
It's just, I take a look at Lauren James, as Lottie has said, at Chelsea, where she'll do that, and 9 times out of 10, like at the Emirates, she either hit it wide or she hit it over. There was nowhere near it was going in. Whereas Serena's got her actually shooting on target. That's, I believe, now two out of two games, 2 shots similar, like to like, going back to it, and that she scored in similar games. So obviously Serena's got her doing something different to whatever Emma Hayes is doing. It doesn't help that Emma Hayes keeps on calling her out every 5 minutes and saying that
on the commentary.
I hope she's got a long-term contract with her club.
Yes.
But this, bear in mind, a lot of people do not know that Lauren James originally started at Arsenal. She
did. There's actually pictures of her, I think, in the Conti Cup final, when she was one of our youth products. She's gone, I think, Arsenal, then Man United, and then obviously Chelsea. Thankfully, she's doing better for England than for Chelsea, which is quite nice. Should she have had a second goal just before half time?
Yes. I think everyone's going to talk about this because this was the controversial one, because essentially what's happened is Lucy Bronze was offside from the free kick. She comes forward into that next run of play. The problem is we don't know who the ball actually lands off, because it's between, I believe it's actually Lauren Hemp and one of the Chinese defenders. We're not sure who it lands off, but because the ball is going backwards, Lauren James is able to get on the end of it and have a shot.
What happens is I think the defender heads the ball, but because it's not like a path, like if it had been an intentional head, like directed, like a pass back, it will play Bronze on side. But it's the whole idea that if it's an unintentional play, which it was a challenge in the air and just bounced off her, it has no bearing on the original phase of play when the ball was played. So Lucy Bronze remained offside. The big crime is that Lucy Bronze didn't get onside in time. She should have been making sure she was onside the moment the first ball went in. And she was offside, and she never got onside when she touched the ball. And unfortunately, it means it's a great finish from Lauren James. You know, it's like we'll do it in the next pod, but later pod we'll talk about the Netherlands and the fact that Esme Brooks scored 2 near identical screamers against Vietnam, and Lauren James sort of did the same. And it just feels like, but I mentioned last week, the greatness of the goal doesn't overrule. You can't use how great a goal is to overrule the rules of the game, which was Bronze's offside and she touched the ball, and it was a tragedy. It was a shame. Thankfully, it didn't matter to how the game played out. Lauren James, as we'll get to in a minute, did get her goal. Before then, we did concede our first goal of the tournament. It was from the spot. Gio, I was going to come to you. Bit of an annoyance, that one.
Yeah, it always is, isn't it? I didn't see it at the time, so I just sort of flipped back on my screen and noticed something was happening, and I was like, "Oh no, what have we done?" And it's a shame, isn't it? Had full faith in Mary Epps, but unfortunately, with penalties, you just never know, do you? And they did tuck it away, but you know, we bounced back, and that's the most important thing. We didn't let our, you know, heads didn't go down. We didn't crumble into it as well. We just sort of went straight back up. Played well together and got the goal to take the 3-goal lead again. So all of these things, they all happen for a reason. Unfortunately, we did concede a goal, but overall, it's just going to help us learn throughout this tournament as well, that we can, whatever happens, we're ready for it, and they'll regroup and push on.
Interestingly, this is the China's goals penalties. They've only ever in this World Cup, they've only scored 2 goals, and both of them were penalties. So if you think we've had trouble with shooting boots in this World Cup, have a look at the rest of the Asian champions. Thankfully, the goal didn't set us back. In fact, it sort of inspired us to go and get another one. Lottie, Lauren James again. I actually did see this goal. I was on my lunch break, and I just got the feed up just whilst I had my sandwiches, and I missed just as the penalty. And watching again, I was thinking, oh, England, are they going to wobble? Are they going to tumble? And then Jess Carter whips across him to the back stick. You see Lauren James free, and for me, before the ball's reached her, I'm thinking goal. And I'm just thinking it's gonna happen. And it reminds me a bit of Wienereuter against Man United at the Emirates. Remember that last season when that ball whipped in, and then out of on the blind side, Wienereuter just follows it up, and I just. Side foot, not laces. I mean, I would have just gone Abbott and woofed it on my laces if it come to me. But the technique and the calmness to side foot it past the keeper. Would you reckon this was the better goal, or do you reckon the first goal was the better goal?
Oh, do you know what? They were both screamers. How do you expect me to choose? That's a very unfair question. I'm not choosing, and that is the reaction you wanted. But yeah, no, I don't know what Serena's doing with her, but. As an Arsenal fan, I'm kind of worried now. Because if she can take that back to Chelsea, we're in trouble.
Do you think she's going to be basically our Beth Mead for this tournament, our talisman?
There's something magic about that 7 shirt. Something magic. That's all I've got to say. Yeah,
I do feel with tournaments, if you want to go deep as well as an England fan, it's nice to have a talisman to sort of follow. I think back to Euro 2004, Wayne Rooney was sort of the player I was sort of following through that one and want to do so well. You think of maybe like in France 98, Michael Owen, or Italian 90. I was going to say 86. You had Gary Lineker sort of following his goals, and I say with gritted teeth in 2018 you had some chap called Harry Kane. But it's good to have a talisman to sort of focus on, and a taliswoman in this case to follow through. And we had Ellen White in 2019. She was the one supplying all the goals and sort of driving the team forward. And it feels like Lauren James, this brilliantly talented young raw talent, is going to be the one. And we all remember what Beth Mead was like during Euro 2022. She was unstoppable. And if Lauren James can emulate that with the number 7 shirt, I think we're going to have a lot of fun this summer.
No, definitely. I think. Sorry, Adam.
No,
I do think it's really quite exciting having her to be able to play where Beth Mead plays and also where Fran Kirby plays, because that means these two aren't comfortable in their seats when they return. They've got someone at their heels wanting to play. Although I'd say Beth's return will be a bit longer for England, I'll be honest. But Fran Kirby, she better watch out. She might lose her spot.
Well, I think Ella Toon's spot is in jeopardy now, because I was always of the opinion.
But Ella Toon's always come off the bench. She's always been better off the bench. You've got to remember, as May said in a couple of pods ago, she's played every single game for Man United this season. She is shattered, just like Lauren Hemp. Lauren Hemp's had a bit of a rest, and she's been much better. But Toon is shattered. She's played every single minute for Man United this season.
I felt that Toon, it would always have to be Toon and Russo, but the fact we've now seen it could be James and Russo instead as a pairing, so I think we can afford to have maybe Toon on the bench.
I think
she's definitely.
I think that's my preferred pairing. If I'm honest with you, but then don't let Lauren, as everyone's calling her, LJ, play the whole 90 minutes. Get Toon in to cover the last 20 minutes, half an hour, and then we're not missing anything.
Can I just put an idea? England at the next tournament. Beth on the right, Hemp on the left, James in the 10, and Russo the lead striker. How does that sound as an attacking force? Does that sound?
Where are you putting Leah Williamson? You put her at the back of Millie?
No, Liam Williamson in the 2 with Millie Bright, and you'd have the Stanway Walsh midfield, and then see who's on the fullbacks, because you never know. Might be
I like that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something there. I'm really intrigued by Lauren James because I think before the sort of the World Cup started, I knew she was talented. The only thing I remember her doing for Chelsea was a nice slalom goal against Spurs, which was a great goal and a great finish, but hadn't really seen her sort of spark into life. And I think her career definitely skyrocketed when Serena came to England, and we've seen how she's taken Beth and taken to another level, and we see it with Arsenal, and it looks like she's done something very similar with Lauren James. So yeah, I'm as excited as I am for next season. I'm very, 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 very nervous when we have to play Chelsea next. I think Lauren James is going to be very scary, unless of course Emma Hayes shunts her onto the wing, in which case we can all breathe a sigh of relief. So
100%. I mean, she's missing Fran Kirby at the minute, so you never know. But
wish Frank Kirby.
Emma Hayes has her own way of doing things, so it's always a bit different for country, isn't it?
Yeah. Moving on to the next goal, because thankfully that wasn't the end of the goals. There were a few more. Chloe Kelly, hero of Euro 2022, got in on the act. Matt, bit of a gaff from the keeper, unfortunately.
I knew you were going to do this to me. That's twice in a row you stitched me up. It's just one of those where you lose concentration, and I again, it sounds a bit amateurish, but when China have had those moments in games where they've not been able to be that professional as some of the other teams in the tournament, if I'm honest, it wouldn't. You'd probably expect it from debutants. You wouldn't expect it from teams that have been there since the beginning. And the fact of the matter was, you just let the ball go, and Chloe Kelly's just always going to chase that down, and she slots it into an empty net. There's nothing you can really do, except you've got to make sure that you've got your concentration for when it's really needed. And unfortunately, she just had that lapse and completely misjudged the ball, and that was it.
I think with those situations, I mean, firstly, from a striker perspective, it shows the worth in pressing. I mean, so many times we see the striker chase the ball down, the keeper clears it, and we think, what's the point? Well, it's for moments like that, moments when the game's been a bit long, the keeper's, a bit unfocused, and you profit. For me as a keeper, if you're going out that far, you've got to take the ball. It doesn't matter. She's obviously trying to do. I remember, I think it was Martin Phillip against Arsenal. This is back in 2012. The ball was coming to him, was outside the box. He thought, I'll let the ball come into the box and I can grab it. And of course, what happened? Benny stole it off his toes and scored. And clearly, the ball's come through, and she's thinking, the ball's bouncing the box. I can let it come in. No, don't. You've got to take the initiative. Don't let the ball determine you. You've got to go. If you can't claim it, head it, boot it, whatever. And she does neither. She tries to let it bounce. The bounce is so awful for her. It just bounces clear of her. And fair play to Kelly. Chased it down. It's an easy goal and takes it away. Last goal, and I will have to go to Lottie for this one because she'll never forgive me. I know. I mean, it's a fantastic finish from our left back. What did you think? Left back striker, wing back. Rachel Daly's off the mark. That's just need Beth England.
Absolutely, the volley. Scored. I know Russo scored, but I'm sorry, but this goal just takes the goal of the game for me. It was just. When the ball came to her and she just volleyed it in, it was just like, yes. I think what was my phrase in the pub, and I think I shouted, "The pub is empty, bear that in mind." Being at lunchtime, and I think what the words out of my mouth, and Rachel blank Daly has arrived.
She has.
So I won't fill in the blank. Everyone can work out what I said. I was just really happy. I actually almost spilled my drink all over the table. So jumping off my seat. So yeah.
Were you nervous when VAR came up and they thought, might be another?
Not really, because it didn't look offside. Because if you go back to Lucy Bronze, it was all over an arm. So if you look at the lines, it was an arm, and thankfully the Chinese player, her arm was about a little bit more than Rachel's. I was like, yeah, that's gone in, that's fine, we're good. So, but I'm just glad she's arrived. I'm glad she's got her goal, and I want more. I always want more from Rachel Daly because she's scored all bangers all season. She deserves more.
Hopefully, we'll
even if she is left back.
Well, this is the thing now. The move to the back three, and this is what I'm sort of going to get to in a minute. It means that Bronze and Daly, who are both naturally more attacking fullbacks, I've got greater license to sort of move her forward. And we saw Bronze hit the post. We saw Daly actually score. There's more potency in that front line, provided we can keep the back door shut. So moving on to next round, and we are in the last 16, and we will be playing Nigeria, who after Canada slipped up against host Australia, Nigeria got a 0-0 draw against Republic of Ireland. We'll be going over that in a later pod. But they are our next opponents. Then, though, with the mighty Oshwala leading the line. I'll start with you, Ryan. Do you rate our chances?
If we turn up what we did today and don't take Nigeria lightly, because we need to basically go back and look at Canada against Australia. Nigeria versus Australia. Sorry, my apologies. When they just turn up, and when if you're not going to show us respect, and you make mistakes, we're going to punish you. And that's what they did to Australia. If it weren't for Australia yesterday turning up themselves, they would have been out their own tournament, respectively. And we need to take heed of that and realise the performances we had in the first 2 games can't happen again. Now, especially as knockout, because that's it. If we can, as I say, if we turn up like we did today, I don't see us. I think in 9 minutes we'll be through, no problem. It's just now the attitude. We've got to have the right attitude, and the players, certain players need to lead by example. Certain so-called captains need to step up and be more vocal.
I do feel with some, especially with teams like Nigeria, and I think we're all guilty of this, of underestimating, shall we say, teams that are not from the European continent. I think we do underestimate teams from, shall we say, Brazil aside, teams maybe from South America, definitely teams from Africa. I think there is a theme that there should be a honestly routine, but we should overcome them. I think that's very dangerous. Now we look at what happened to Australia; they got scuppered by Nigeria, who were very good on the day. And if you're not at the races, if you're defensively suspect, they will get you on the break because they are rapid. So hopefully, Serena lines us up correctly. Matt, I'm going to come to you. How do you reckon Serena will line us up? Do you reckon there'll be any further changes now she's gotten a feel for changing a team every game now? Do you think there'll be some more?
I would probably have to have a guess at maybe not. I imagine this will be the side that she'll probably go with. The only problem would be maybe she might decide on who wants to be on that right side. Is it going to be Chloe Kelly? Is it going to be someone else? Is she going to give some of the others a bit of a time? But I imagine if there is going to be changes, it'll be maybe 1-2, maybe in the defence we might see. My main worry is that defence at the moment, especially with Kira Walsh. There's no one really to go and cut those balls out. Which if I'm honest, I think Nigeria will play very similar like they did, as Ryan said, against Australia. They'll try and make sure that they go out on the counter, and that seems to be where we're very susceptible. Yes, thank you. So I just think maybe for that, maybe Jess Carter might be missing off. But then it's a question.
Could we put Lottie in for her? Do you reckon? Lottie, she played in the back three most of the season, hasn't she? Alongside like Beatty and Haffer, could she maybe slot in against with Brighton Greenwood in the back three?
I would like to, but we've seen that Lotta seems to be very much an omission from this team. She's gone for Esme Morgan, and we've gone for Jess Carter instead. Let's just remind people that Esme Morgan isn't really a centre back; she's a right back. But Lotta in a back three even. If she was playing
wow.
if she was to play up top, why not?
Jen Beatty style.
Do the Jen Beatty up front style. She is capable of doing that as well. Let's not forget against Wolfsburg and Man United in previous seasons.
Oh yeah, wasn't that the moment that she ran over Pop?
Yeah, we never know. Yeah, that was. I think maybe Lotte could do something. Lotte could do something similar when we play Germany, if we end up doing play Germany in the future rounds. So, G, I was going to just come to you then. How would you line up in attack?
Lauren James in the 10.
Well, obviously.
And I think it would have, for me, it would have to be Hemp one side, Russo up top, and Kelly on the other.
Okay, so would you? I was going to say with that, because if we're saying, let's say that Serena sticking with a back three with wing backs and the 2 pivot, that gives you just 3 forward. So if you're saying Lauren James and 10, that gives you 2 split strikers.
Yeah, I don't think we'll stick with a back 3.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Because we've seen what Nigeria can do to a very good team of Australia. And we're back 3 is when you're more comfortable and you're like, with no disrespect to China, obviously they're champions of their continent, but it's one of those games, isn't it, where we could just kick the girls up a little bit, get them higher. We want to make things happen, whereas that it's going to be a really tough game. It's going to be physical, so I don't think we can really. I'd like to be wrong, obviously, but I don't know. Just for me, I'm just not comfortable with just having the back 3, because especially when you have Jess Carter in, she would be the weakest link in that, and that's where they would go for. And we can't make those mistakes that we have been in each of these games. They will punish us. They have the quality to score goals against us if we aren't as sharp as we should be. So I would go back to a back 4.
Do you think, because Daly and Russo are 2 of our forwards off the mark, just Beth England left, do you think, is there room for her to start, or maybe have a good impact off the bench? Is she going to be our Russo that Russo was in the last Euros now, as a sub-striker finisher?
Yeah, I think she's just going to... It's nice to see her get minutes. And she did again today, of course. But I think she is going to be a sub-appearance player. That's just how it looks at the moment. Russo looks way too comfortable, not way too comfortable, but she looks so comfortable up there.
Yeah.
In a good way. Taking the shirt from Ellen hasn't really phased her too much. She has now got her goals. She's now going to be a lot more confident and settled. So yeah, I think Beth England is just going to be especially now going into these knockouts. I think we'll start to see a more structured team, hopefully without injuries.
That's my job. Don't jinx it. That's my job. It's my job to throw the muckers on everything.
I know, but yeah, I think she's going to be a bench player for sure.
Yeah. Bench England. Over to you, Lottie. I'm going to finish off because I want to talk about your favourite player, which is Rachel Daly. We have a lot of jokes on here about, is she a left back? Is she a striker? Is she a full back? At the moment, she's playing as a wing back in this back 3 sort of formation. I think she came off the bench. I think it was in the Haiti game as a forward. She was a left back against Denmark. Now she's at wing back. Do you think wing back is going to be now her position for the rest of the tournament? Do you think that is where she's going to settle for the rest of the time in Australia?
Oh no! Do you know what? I'm more comfortable, as much as I want to see her up top and challenge Russo for that spot. Because as G said, she's now comfortable, and no striker should be comfortable if you've got someone waiting to come on and nipping at your heels. Yeah. But because we've had to move Daly back to wing back and use her in the defence, I'm more comfortable with that defence. I look at that defence and the centre backs aren't strong enough. The weak link in there, I hate to say it, is Jess Carter, and that worries me, especially coming up with the likes of Oshola. We know what she's like. We've seen her there's a reason why she's won this many Champions League with Barcelona.
Yeah,
as many as she has, I should say, because I can't think of the number off the top of my head. But
2.
Oh, okay, there we go. But there's a reason why people regard her as one of the best, and we saw it from her last goal against Australia. She just tore them open. They were so panicking about her, they missed everybody else. And that's what I don't want to see Millie and Jess Carter doing. I think with Rachel, I think it's a bit more secure. We're a bit. It's a lot safer. Put it that way for me. I'm a bit more confident in the back line. It's familiar faces. So yeah.
And she gets a chance to score a volley at the end of the game, which is
always
nice.
The thing is, I'm absolutely. Going off a tangent, I am absolutely loving the fantasy football at the moment because I'm getting clean sheets, I'm getting goals from her, I'm getting everything. So
yes,
I'm happy.
I'd say on the topic of fantasy, I'm very happy because I think I've got Russo as my captain, so that's good points for me. But I also have Katie Zellum as my vice captain, so even more points for me because she actually started. So I'm very, very happy with that. We're just about almost at the end of the pod, I'm afraid. But before we go, I just want to quickly get your predictions for the Nigeria game, which I believe is when is the Nigeria game for?
Monday morning.
Monday morning. So Monday, that's 8 o'clock, isn't it? Monday morning.
8:30.
So
8:30.
So make sure you get your excuses to your managers in nice and early and see if they are as sympathetic to the cause as you are. So I'm going to come to you first, Ryan. Quick predictions. England, are we going home or is it coming home?
Well, we're not going home yet. Put it that way.
Good.
Say it. Say it.
What scoreline? What do you reckon the scoreline would be? Do you have any?
If we turn up and our defence is organised and they actually communicate, there's no errors there. 2-0.
2-0. Right.
If there's any communication errors that we've seen, 2-1. But I do think we'll go for it.
Go for it. Okay, I'm liking optimism. G, I'm going to come to you next. Any score predictions? Can we go better than 2-0?
It's coming home.
Good. Well, I'm glad that's sorted.
I'm gonna go with 3-0.
3-0. Can we get any goal scorers? Are we going to get another James screamer, or are we going to get a?
I don't know. It will be the kiss of death for me to go. Yeah, she'll score again. She will. I don't know. Potentially like a Millie Bright header.
Frantically.
Yeah.
Sorry, G.
Millie Bright header, possibly.
Oh, okay. I like that. Get the defence case for defence in. I like that. Get them. Well, as we know, Amanda Ellis has proved that sometimes defenders are the finest forwards in the game. So hopefully a bright header will be good. Matt, any ideas from you? What are you? Because I should say for the listeners, you did also predict, like me, that China would win. So I'm hoping that you're going to do something similar and guarantee an England win by predicting a defeat.
Well, bear in mind the last time that we played an African team at the World Cup, it was Cameroon, and they nearly looked like they were going to storm off the pitch because of the refereeing decisions.
Yes, that was an experience.
Honestly, I've never sit down and watched a match and thought, you know what, they look like they're just going to walk off the pitch and the game's going to be abandoned because of how much it was. I've never seen so many reactions like that. If you're honest, that was very much extreme.
But I think we can agree the game has developed a bit more since then. This is Nigeria. We should say that Cameroon, Nigeria, that's potatoes and tomatoes were the phrases. I think apples and pears. We've seen Nigeria and we've seen how good they are in terms. We know of Lottie's has spoken many times about the amazing world-class striker they have in Oshwala, ex-Arsenal forward, we should add. Any chance of a Nigerian upset, or is this going to be England now full throttle and unstoppable now?
I don't think we're there yet. And as we've seen in previous tournaments, it just takes a moment. And I have a feeling that what's going to happen is Nigeria, very similar to the Spain game, Nigeria go and take the lead. We somehow managed to bundle it home in the 80-odd minute. And
right.
Lucy Bronze will end up scoring just outside the box or with a header because she always ends up scoring at World Cups, and it's not World Cup unless Lucy Bronze scores. So
we are waiting for a Lucy Bronze screamer, I should say. We've had one in each of the last World Cups. So yeah, hopefully that will be Nigeria. I mean, she almost scored a header. She hit the post better in this game, but hopefully we get a screamer against Nigeria. So you're thinking 2-1 extra time, Lucy Bronze screamer.
Either extra time or it'll be added time.
Oh, okay, that's going to leave us in the edge of our seats. Lottie, I'm going to come to you.
Talk to me.
Rachel Daly hat trick, I'm guessing.
No, I'm going 3-2 England. I don't think
3-2.
Yeah, I'm like they're not going to roll over so easily. I mean, we saw what they did to Australia. I think the key thing will be keeping our heads. I don't care who scores as long as I get some screamers and some beautiful goals that I can celebrate with you. I'm happy.
And it's England doing the screamers and the goals.
If this is an Australia goal, I will appreciate it. It depends how the ball goes in. You just don't know at this stage. I mean, we've got a long wait till Monday. Well, it feels like a long wait already, but hopefully, yeah. I just want a good game. I want us to be dynamic. I want to be quick on the ball. I don't want none of this. What we saw in the first two games. Don't want it.
Well, supposedly we've clicked. We've got our mojo back. We're playing how we want to play. Hopefully we can harness that and stick to it and not, like you said, fall back into the bad habits. I'm being uber positive because of the slating and the slant that I got last time round. I'm going 3-1 England. I'm backing our team to pull through, and I think Lauren James. I think she's going to score another screamer. I think she's got that moment. I think of like Ellen White in 2019. Just every time she touches the ball in the box, it just flies in the net. And when you're in that rich vein of form, when you think, and the goals she's scoring are not tap-ins, they're curlers, they're pearlers, they're screamers. She's on it. She's on form, and I think she's going to roll with that into the knockout round. So 3-1 England. I think it's going to be a great game, and hopefully more fun to come. But that is it. That's the end of the Lioness special. But a massive thank you to our guest, or rather not guests, in G and Ryan. G, where can we find you in the world of social media?
Yeah, so on Twitter it's at gtriggs and GoonerG1 for Instagram. And as I've said before, into the season, the podcast will be back at the North Bank Summit. So keep an eye on the socials for that. And yeah, thanks for having me again.
Excellent. Ryan, I believe you have a pod of your own to plug. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find, in terms of podcasting, the audio side of things, you can find it on Spotify or on any other audio platform. And the actual live side of it is here on YouTube and Mr. Arsenal podcast, and you can find me on Twitter, Mr. Arsenal89.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Ryan, for having you on. It's been a pleasure. Just going to go back to my amazing co-hosts, Matt and Lottie. Matt, where can we find you in the world of social media?
So my Twitter is @MattLR28.
And lastly, Lottie, where can we find you?
Last but not least, you can find me at Lottie_AWFC on Twitter and Instagram, or you can just find me here in my little house on Vic Akers Wonderland.
Absolutely. We hope you are. It's been a lot of fun doing this Vic Akers Wonderland, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are recording it. If you really want to find me, why, I don't know, but I might be relatively interesting. And you can find me at AdamSalter4 on Twitter sphere, where I'm posting nonsense most days when I'm not busy at work. But that's it. That's the end of the show. Thank you so very much for watching and tuning in, listening in. We'll be back on another pod soon. We'll be talking about the other games that were played out over the last week. But until then, have a good evening and take care.